everyone, my name is Kate Kalthoff and welcome to a Stamping to Share video. Today we're going to start our exploration of the 2017 Occasions catalog, and we're going to start with the Party Animal Suite. This is a card I did for a swap, and this is the card we're going to be making today because one of the featured items in this Party Animal Suite is a bundle called Balloon Adventures, and when you open it out, it's a very interactive and fun card to work with. And so this, as I said, is the card we're going to be making. Let me review some of the things that are in this suite that we'll be using on this card. I have some of the Party Animal washi tape, and so we'll be using this on the card. This is a fabulous designer tape, and the thing that I like the best about it is Stampin' Up! Included this very, very skinny 1/8 inch tape, which is awesome. In fact, I like using this in my planner because it helps me separate some of my entries that I want to take note of. And then this is the stamp set and the thinlets that you can purchase together and save 10%. Now you'll notice it's missing the large pop-out thinlet because I've already got that set up on my Big Shot machine. And we are also going to use Party Animal Designer Series paper, which is just beautiful and fun, and it really does look like everybody's in a party mood. So you have the little animals with the hats on, you've got all this wonderful confetti, you have some more masculine pieces in this paper pack which will look great on those masculine cards. And then of course there's presents, and I love the stripes. It's probably my favorite one of the whole pack, and so that's what we're using as the background on the card today. I've got all these balloons floating off, and then numbers and dots, and this is a great Pacific Point panel, great for kids cards, lots of candles, more candles, and then of course cake. We always got to have cake when we have a birthday party. And before we actually get started doing the card, I want to show you a couple of swap cards that I received from some of the swaps that I participated in. This first swap is a card by Deborah Elmore, and it's one of them that caught my eye right away. Just a really simple card that you can recreate by just cutting your Designer Series paper panels into strips and layering them on your card. And then of course there's lots of different balloon options when you use the Big Shot machine with the thinlets. And I love this font. I love where they do kind of a scripty font with the regular kind of straight up and down font. That's really fun. The next card is by Brenda Cardinal, and I love this card too. Again, it shows off the little presents in the background. Here's that little masculine paper I was talking about, makes a great strip. And then she just punched out her circles the way it looks, and she's got her dual, I think she used the duet banner punch as well. And then of course some little strips of festivity on this banner punch. You can see she used a couple of little tiny 1/8 Emerald Envy strips here, or I should say ribbon strips. Love that. And look at this big font. I mean, if you don't like writing on the inside of your cards, well, then this is a great stamp set for you because all you have to really do is sign your name and it looks great. All right, the next swap card I wanted to share is by Kim Vogel. And look at this. She used that designer washi tape on here, and I love the way these colors are blocked out. Makes a great accent. And then of course a little bit of foil, and then there's some of the balloons, and one of the dies is this cute little bow that you can add to the balloon. And she did use the candle paper in the background too. I mean, nothing says birthdays like candles. And finally, the last swap card I'll share with you was by Melissa Stout. This is a great card. It's super easy for those of you that are fairly new stampers because you can go ahead and just make a banner, and you've got another little block of paper right here, and you just put your sentiment into another kind of rectangle shape of paper, and you're good to go. So that is fun, and I did want to go ahead and share those with you before we got started on actually making the card that I created. And so here it is again, and let me go ahead and give you all the measurements and the how-to to recreate this beautiful and festive birthday card. The first thing we're going to need to start out with is some Emerald Envy paper, and this is 5.5 by 8.5, and then I've scored it at 4 1/4. This is going to be our card base, and so let me go ahead and just fold this in half just along the score line there, and then we're going to go ahead and just make the front panel of the card first. So we have our panel of designer paper. This is the stripes that I like so well. And this is 4 by 5 1/4. And we're going to go ahead and put this down onto the front panel of our card. To do that, I'm just going to use some multi-purpose liquid glue, spread that around, and then we'll just set this right here, right onto the front panel of our card. The next panel that we're going to put right on top of this card is a 3 by 4 inch panel of Whisper White. But before we do that, we need to do a little bit of stamping. So let me grab my stamp mat. This is Stampin' Up's Stamp and Pierce mat. And so I'm just going to use this because it gives me a little bit of cushion. All of these stamps are photopolymer stamps in this particular set, and so the cushion allows you to get just a little bit better images. And so I'm just stamping the happy birthday, and I did that with Pacific Point ink. Then we can go ahead and get a 2-inch square of that designer series paper, and this is what that looks like. I use the little confetti in the background here. So I'm just going to put that on with a little multi-purpose liquid glue, and we're going to set this right here above the happy birthday that I just stamped. The next thing that we're going to add is a ribbon. This is crushed curry, and I just cut it out with a little scrap on my Big Shot machine, and I use the balloon thinlets, the little pop-up balloon die thinlets. Now this isn't a pop-up piece, but there's a lot of pieces in that particular thinlet set. So I have it on a glue dot, and I'm just going to go ahead and set this right here at the top of our present. Sometimes I just like to keep it a little loose, not all so pushed down, and so that's what that looks like. And now this is ready to put onto the front of our card. So because it's Whisper White, I'm not going to use the multi-purpose liquid glue. I'm just going to go ahead and use some snail back here. That will eliminate worrying about glue lines. And so we're just going to set this right here, centered into our panel so that all 4 sides are close to equal. Then the next thing we're going to do is we are going to get that white panel, our pop-up panel, ready. So to do that, we are going to need a panel of Whisper White. This is 5 by 7 1/2, and then I've scored it at 3 3/4. Now, I'm going to take this little paper away, but I'm not actually going to fold on the score line. You want to do your cutting on the Big Shot first. So let me show you what that looks like. Here's that piece of paper already cut on the Big Shot machine. Now let me show you how I layered it. I used the magnetic platform, then I went ahead and I put my cut plate down, then I put my paper down, and then I used that pop-up balloon die and I centered it into the paper. Now this might take a little bit of trial and error to get this centered just right. So I was making like 40 of these, and so I wanted to be sure that I didn't have to mess around measuring this every single time. So this die is about 6 inches tall, and to make it even, I went ahead and measured a 1/2 inch down from the top and a 1/2 inch down from the bottom so that it would fit onto my 5-inch panel of paper perfectly, and I would know which, how to place it every single time. So I just made these tick marks with a Sharpie marker, and that way it just made everything go so much faster when I was at the Big Shot machine, because I could just make sure that my paper was lined up with the Sharpie marks that I made. And so then we can pull this away. Oh goodness, that pulled out great. And then you will see, just let me push that away, and then you will see that we have our cutout. Now, let's go ahead and put this onto our card. But I just happen to think one thing that you want to pay attention to when you're running it through the Big Shot machine is be sure that you have your scored edge lined up with this open spot here in the balloon and then this open spot down here. These 2 open spots will help you get that lined up on the score line. Before we do any folding or set this into our card, we want to do our stamping. So let me go ahead again and get my Stampin' mat into the picture, and I'm going to ink up this banner image with Emerald Envy ink, and I'm going to set it right over the top of this and stamp it down. Then we're going to put a word in the banner, and so let me get that inked up with our Pacific Point ink. And that's all curved to fit the banner perfectly, and it says "The best is yet to come." And then as long as we're working with the Pacific Point ink here, I'll do the first balloon. And as you know, there's a score line going through this balloon. So rather than doing one of the balloons that's completely inked, it's a bold image, rather than doing a bold image over that balloon, I'm going to use one of the balloons that has the image broke up, whether with circles or stripes. That way it won't be quite so noticeable if it doesn't stamp perfectly over that score line. Then we'll take the other more solid image balloon and we'll stamp this over here to the left on this one. And that again was inked up with Emerald Envy. And then we are going to take the last balloon, and that's a little dotted balloon, and we're going to stamp that over here. That looks great. Now you may notice that my balloon with the Emerald Envy is a little bit off. In fact, probably all of these balloons are off, and I'll tell you why. It's because I cannot get directly over the top of my paper, because that's where my cell phone is sitting when I take this video. But were I not doing a video, I would be able to put my head right over the top of where I'm stamping and be able to line it up a lot easier. I'm sure you won't have as much trouble as I just had. But let's go ahead and now we'll fold this. So if you look very carefully on this die cutout, you'll see some fold lines here. So not only does it cut out these balloon images, but it also pre-scores it for you so you know exactly where to fold. So we're going to take the two end panels, and looking for that score line, we're just going to fold those like this, because that's what's going to be glued to our card. Then we're going to fold that center score line. So to do that, I'm just going to fold it back right along where the score line is. So there's not a lot of area here that you need to fold because some of it is cut out. Then this little balloon tail actually has a score line in it, but we're just going to ignore that because you don't really need to fold that. It's going to fold up into your card just fine without folding that little tiny balloon tail. All right, so now we can put this into our card. So here's our card, and the way that I do this is I line it up so that the score line on this white panel is lined up to the score line on my card base. And then once I have that lined up, I just double check and make sure that all the edges are even and right where I want them to be. Then I'm going to fold this side back, and I'm going to take my snail. Again, because it's Whisper White, we're going to use snail. And I just did 3 long stripes because we want this to hold really well. You could also use fast fuse. That would be another really good option. Then we're going to do the same thing on this side. So we're just going to fold that out. Give this a nice a whole bunch of snail on here. Then we'll just fold it back. And our card is pretty much done. So look at that. Now let's decorate up these edges. So I'm going to grab the washi tape, and we're just going to put a little washi tape down each side. And I'm going to hand tear this so it has that sort of, I don't know, that not so neat look, which is kind of fun for a birthday party because you know how things are at birthday parties. And then we're going to go ahead and do this here, trim that off, and our card is complete. So, and it actually went really quickly. I mean, if I hadn't done so much talking, this video would have been over a lot sooner. But this is the front. Happy birthday. Open it up. You've got your pop out, and it's just perfect. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. It's always my pleasure to share with you. This is the card we just did. This is the card I had done in advance. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you'd like to place a product order, please visit my blog at www.stampingtoshare.com. And if you're ordering before March 31st of 2017, you are going to be able to take a Sale-a-bration item from the 2017 Sale-a-bration catalog as a freebie for every $50 increment on your product order. Have a great day. Bye-bye.